Hello, my name is Jordan Doty, and I'm studying conflict analysis and how it can be utilized in conflict resolution in real-life scenarios. The purpose of the simulation is to learn to utilize two-track diplomacy through a simulation problem-solving workshop. These workshops are often used for conflict resolution and have proven effective in building trust and confidence between participants. These workshops allow participants to confront stereotypes, discuss their own interest in the conflict, brainstorm possible solutions, and acknowledge the individuals in the midst of a war. They also allow community leaders, NGO spokesmen, and cultural leaders to participate and ensure policymakers can speak freely without the pressure from their constituents to say the right thing in the right way. These workshops are open-ended and allow for discussions to take place and new ideas to be heard. The particular simulation focuses on the conflict between Russia and Chechnya. The simulation allows the participants to apply conflict theories to real-world situations and to do so through problem-solving workshops. The simulation also allows the participants to practice listening and understanding their fellow workshop participants and responding in a way that will provoke change, as would be necessary in a real-life situation. The simulation allows each of us to take on a particular role in the conflict and develop our own negotiation techniques within the context of a workshop. When I began the simulation, I knew that the conflict had a deep history, dating back to 1858, when Russia subdued the Chechen people. During World War II, Stalin accused the Chechens of working with the Nazis and deported all citizens with Chechen descent to either Siberia or Kazakhstan. They were not permitted to return until 1957 and were put through a process of Russification. The Chechens never fully accepted the Russian invasion and viewed themselves as Chechen, not Russian citizens. The official Chechen independence movement began in 1991, and in 1994 the Russian President Yeltsin sent troops into the Chechen Republic to stop it. This attack killed approximately 100,000 Chechen citizens, but it did not stop the movement. Instead, violence became the primary response of the Chechens. The war lasted until 1997, when Russia withdrew its troops, although they remained in the region. This was a rough time for Chechnya, as the crime rates rose, terrorist activity and hostage situations were common, and poverty was high. Maskhadov, the leader of the Chechen Republic, was forced to declare a state of emergency. Then, when he announced a phasing in of the Sharia law over a 3-year period, he was asked to resign by rebel forces, showing a growing divide between the independence movement. This split came to be one side fighting for independence while the other side fought for an Islamic State. The side fighting for an Islamic State was known for violent acts of terror and hostile scenarios. In 1999, the Second Chechen War began when a rebel leader by the name of Shamil Basyev led his forces into a neighboring area and claimed he would create an Islamic State out of the republic. Russia blamed Maskhadov for not being able to control his people, and when the apartment bombings of 1990 occurred, Putin sent troops into the Chechnya once again. As a result, around 200,000 Chechens fled the country, and Russia claimed that Chechnya would be governed directly from Moscow from then on. In the years that followed, Russia was accused of many human rights violations. However, because the United States was trying to build back their relationship with Russia, they chose not to intervene. In fact, after the bombings of 9/11, Bush grouped Chechnya in with terrorism and ensured no one would question Putin's actions in Chechnya from there on out. The media was silenced, and the reporters were often harassed if they tried to report the truth. Then, Chechen rebels responded even more with large terrorist attacks on theaters, government headquarters, and Russian aid workers, refusing to give in to Russian domination. In March 2002, Putin scheduled a referendum officially placing Chechnya as part of Russia and allowing the citizens to vote on it. The vote was considered widely in favor. However, Chechen separatist groups and human rights activists considered the referendum to be a scam, claiming it appeared far too favorable to be accurate, and noting that all of the voting stations were surrounded by Russian soldiers, which provoked fear in the Chechens who may have voted against the referendum. The Chechen people remained loyal to either the Chechen rebel groups or to the underground Chechen government, not to Russia. The Chechen government spoke out against the referendum and told all of its followers to vote no. The referendum was also against anything the Chechen rebels believed, therefore it is highly unlikely that either of these groups would vote widely in favor. Needless to say, the referendum did not bring about its desired peace, and the conflict continues. Overall, the war has been very costly, both to Russia and Chechnya. The Russians have lost an estimated 10,000 people, while the Chechens have lost around 250,000. There's also around 350,000 Chechens who are displaced or in refugee camps in the region. The conflict is far from resolution and in desperate need of one. When we consider the critical factors that contribute to a successful resolution of a conflict, we acknowledge a few primary requirements. First, it is crucial that the parties involved must feel strongly that the status quo must change and that a new situation is desirable. While the third-party intervention can help demonstrate why the situation is negative, it is up for the parties to decide they need a change and are ready to do what it takes to make that happen. Second, the actors must focus on conflict transformation. Conflict transformation seeks to understand the relationship between the groups and how it can be improved to stop the recurring violence. Conflict transformation is a long-term solution. It seeks to change the fundamental perceptions, attitudes, and behaviors of the conflicting parties through things like problem-solving workshops. And it allows the parties to create a better understanding of the motivations of the opposing party. Another way they seek to build trust during these workshops is through something called reconciliation, which asks the parties to acknowledge the responsibility for their own actions, to seek some form of justice, establish empathy, create joint goals, and create a sustainable healing process. The main goal of reconciliation is to replace fear with trust and a willingness to acknowledge the other's perspectives. Finally, it is important to use skills like co-orientation, in which efforts are made to train someone on the life, work, norms, values, tradition, or any other aspects of someone's culture. When negotiators are willing to truly listen and learn about the other parties involved in a conflict, they are more capable of understanding the needs of the others and understanding how they can make a compromise that is suitable for everyone. In order to resolve this particular conflict, first, the Russians and Chechens need to admit that change is necessary. Next, everyone involved must co-orient themselves to the other parties. Each side needs to fully understand the other's culture and what they seek in this negotiation. Once they are capable of understanding one another, they need to work towards conflict transformation. They must acknowledge their own roles in the conflict and work towards a common ground where they can both benefit and where the people that they represent will also be supportive. In order to do this, they need to create a system where the Chechen people feel free and the Russians are not perceived weak to any other ethnic groups who they fear might want their independence in the future. Most importantly, they need to find a solution in which violence is not the answer. This simulation has taught me how to practically apply the theory I have been learning. I have learned all about conflict resolution and conflict transformation, and this simulation has allowed me to put it into practice. Having said that, it has also showed me that while leaders and negotiators may know theory, it is not always as simple to apply it, especially when you consider people's emotional response as a variable. Sometimes the rational response is not what people are going to use, and instead they're going to dig their heels in for what they want and make the process of negotiation much more difficult. I learned a lot about diplomacy and how to speak in a way that will be well received on both sides. Also, how to compromise without giving in on the things that matter the most. Finally, I learned the importance of informal meetings, like problem-solving workshops, which allow political figures to speak more freely and allow community leaders a place at the policy-making table because of their personal connections with those who are directly affected by these policies. While I found the simulation to be very useful and effective, I believe we would benefit from a live interaction with one another. When things are scripted and you have time to write your response, It removes some of the emotional responses people have in a live scenario. When people are interacting face to face, they are not able to fully consider the repercussions of their words, and this is a critical factor in a negotiation. I'm not sure if it's possible within the context of this course, but if a live chat were an option, I believe it would be beneficial. I also feel that the simulation could have lasted a few more weeks, allowing the roles to develop a little further and for solutions to develop more completely. Overall, however, I found the simulation to be very useful, and I thank you for the opportunity to participate.